Staff Sergeant Taewon Kim stood rigid as Captain Lee delivered the news. Due to life support failures in 3 sections of the UNSC Dauntless, crew quarters had been reassigned. You and Princess Nera will share Officer Cabin 17, Captain Lee stated, his expression offering no room for argument. It's the only space available with adequate security protocols. Taewon's jaw tightened. Sir, with respect, is there no alternative arrangement? None, Sergeant. This diplomatic mission is too important to fail over sleeping arrangements. Princess Nera of the Luminary Empire stood silently, her pale blue skin glowing faintly with what Taewon had learned was displeasure. Her 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller secondary ones above, narrowed at him. I find this unacceptable, she finally said, her melodic voice carrying an edge. My people do not share private spaces with strangers. Then consider it your first lesson in human adaptability, Your Highness, Taewon replied. 2 weeks to our destination. We'll manage. The princess huffed, her skin flashing a deeper blue before she turned and walked away. Taewon looked at Captain Lee, who just shrugged. Make it work, Sergeant. That's an order. Hours later, Taewon stood outside Cabin 17, his duffel bag in one hand and a security keycard in the other. He took a deep breath before swiping the card. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Princess Nera was already inside, sitting on the edge of the single bed. Her royal luggage, 3 shimmering containers that seemed to float slightly above the floor, occupied most of the limited floor space. The cabin was larger than standard crew quarters, but still modest. 1 bed, a small desk with a chair, a tiny bathroom, and barely enough room to walk between them. Your Highness, Taewon said with a formal nod. I'll try to stay out of your way as much as possible. Nera's secondary eyes blinked rapidly while her primary ones remained fixed on him. Where will you sleep? She asked, gesturing to the single bed. The floor will be fine. I've slept in worse places. She stood up, her tall, slender frame making the room feel even smaller. This arrangement is beneath my station. I will speak with your captain again. He won't change his mind, Taewon said, setting his bag down in the corner. The ship is overcrowded due to the life support failure. There are crew members sleeping in corridors. Then perhaps I should sleep in a corridor as well, she said. Taewon couldn't hold back a small laugh. With respect, Princess, that would defeat the purpose of my assignment to protect you. Her skin rippled with bands of darker blue. Taewon had been briefed that luminary emotions showed through their skin. This particular pattern suggested irritation. I do not need protection, she said. My bodyguards were left behind because your military insisted on handling security. Now I am stuck with you. Taewon moved to the small desk and began unpacking his few belongings. I understand this isn't ideal, but we're both adults. We can make this work for 2 weeks. Princess Nera walked to the bathroom door. I require privacy for my evening rituals. Do not disturb me for 1 hour. Yes, Your Highness. After she disappeared into the bathroom, Taewon sank into the desk chair and rubbed his temples. This assignment was supposed to be straightforward. Guard the alien princess during peace negotiations. Keep her safe, stay professional. No one mentioned sharing living quarters. He pulled out his datapad to review the file on Princess Nera, daughter of the Luminary Emperor, 26 Earth years old, trained in diplomatic arts, and known for her intelligence. The file mentioned nothing about her personality or how she might react to close quarters with a human. The bathroom door slid open, releasing a cloud of sweet-smelling mist. Princess Nera emerged wearing what appeared to be formal sleep attire, a flowing silver garment that caught the light as she moved. The washing facility is inadequate, she announced. The water temperature does not reach optimal levels for my species. I'll report it to maintenance, Taewon said, trying to sound helpful. She glanced at his duffel bag. Your possessions are few. Military life teaches you to travel light. Princess Nera nodded, then approached the bed and carefully pulled back the covers. I require 8 hours of uninterrupted rest. My species becomes ill without proper sleep cycles. I'll be quiet, Taewon promised. He pulled a thin mat from his bag and laid it on the floor in the corner furthest from the bed. As the princess settled into bed, her skin dimmed to a soft, pale glow that cast gentle shadows across the room. Taewon turned off the main lights, leaving only the small safety light near the floor. "Sergeant," Nara's voice came softly through the darkness. "Yes, Your Highness. 2 weeks is indeed a short time in the span of our lives. I will adapt." Taewon smiled to himself. "Good night, Princess." "Good night, Sergeant." 3 days into their journey, Taewon and Nara had established an uneasy system. He took the floor mat during her 6-hour sleep cycle, then used the bed during his own rest period while she meditated in the corner. "Your breathing disturbs my concentration," Nara complained as she arranged her ceremonial stones in a pattern on the floor. Taewon continued his maintenance check on his standard-issue pulse rifle. "Your constant glowing keeps me awake, but you don't hear me complaining." "I cannot control bioluminescence during stress," she snapped. "And sharing quarters with a human soldier is extremely stressful." "The feeling is mutual, Princess." That night, as ship systems engaged night cycle lighting, they both froze at the sudden drop in temperature. "Environmental controls are adjusting for the system failures," Taewon explained, checking his comm unit. "It'll be cold for a while." Nara's skin dimmed to a dull blue. "My species doesn't tolerate cold well." For the first time, Taewon saw vulnerability in her royal demeanor. He watched as she wrapped her arms around herself, her tall frame suddenly looking smaller. The blue of her skin continued to fade, becoming almost gray. Taewon had read in her file that luminary body temperature was regulated through their skin. The brighter the glow, the warmer they were. "How bad is it for you?" he asked, setting his rifle aside. "Uncomfortable," she admitted, her voice lacking its usual sharpness. "But I will manage." Taewon stood up and opened his storage compartment. He pulled out his thermal emergency blanket, standard issue for all military personnel. "Here," he said, holding it out to her. "This reflects body heat." Nara looked at the silver blanket with suspicion. "Is this some human trick?" "It's basic survival gear," Taewon explained patiently. "We're not all trying to make your life difficult, Princess." She took the blanket with her 4-fingered hands, examining it closely before wrapping it around her shoulders. The metallic material crinkled as she moved. "Thank you," she said stiffly, as if the words hurt. Taewon nodded and returned to cleaning his weapon. For several minutes, they sat in silence broken only by the hum of the ship and the occasional beep from the environmental controls. "Why did you become a soldier?" Nara asked suddenly. Taewon looked up, surprised by her interest. "Family tradition. My father served, his father before him." "So you had no choice." "I had a choice," he corrected. "I wanted to serve." Nara's primary eyes studied him while her secondary ones blinked thoughtfully. "In my culture, we are born into our roles. I was always going to be a diplomat. And if you wanted something else, what I want is irrelevant. My duty is to my people." The temperature continued to drop. Taewon could now see his breath forming small clouds in the air. He glanced at Nara, who was trying to hide her discomfort. Despite the thermal blanket, her skin had faded to an alarming ash color. He sighed and reached for his comm unit. "This is Sergeant Kim in Cabin 17. What's the status on the environmental controls?" "Working on it, Sergeant," came the reply. 2 hours minimum before we restore normal temperatures." "Understood." He clicked off the comm and looked at Nara. 2 hours. She nodded but said nothing. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to arrange her ceremonial stones, dropping one with a soft clink on the metal floor. "Perhaps you should try a sleep," Taewon suggested. "The bed has thermal regulation built in." "I cannot sleep outside my normal cycle," she replied. "It would disrupt my biological rhythms for days." Taewon ran a hand through his short black hair. Then maybe just rest there until it warms up. Nera looked at the bed, then back at him. Where will you be? I'll stay here. I'm fine. She stood slowly, still clutching the blanket around her. Your species seems remarkably adaptable to temperature changes. We evolved on a planet with extreme seasons, Taiwan explained. It's one of our advantages. Nera moved to the bed and sat on its edge. My world has constant temperature. We never needed to adapt. Taiwan noticed frost beginning to form on the metal surfaces of the cabin. This was getting serious. Princess, may I make a suggestion? He asked carefully. In extreme cold, humans sometimes use combined body heat to survive. Her 4 eyes widened. You propose physical contact. No, he said quickly. Just that we both use the bed with its thermal regulation. I can stay on top of the covers on my side. Nera's skin flickered briefly with a tinge of purple, embarrassment, perhaps. This does not become part of diplomatic records, she said firmly. Agreed. Awkwardly, they arranged themselves on the bed. Nera under the covers on one side, Taiwan above them on the other, a clear space between them. He could feel the bed's heating system struggling against the cold room. In my culture, Nera said quietly, this situation would be considered highly inappropriate. In mine too, Taiwan admitted. But survival comes first. As the minutes passed, Taiwan noticed her color slowly improving. The gray was giving way to a pale blue again. Better? He asked. Yes, she replied. Your human adaptability has its merits. A small victory, Taiwan thought. Perhaps this assignment wouldn't be a complete disaster after all. Taiwan woke to a strange sound. Princess Nera was curled on the floor, her normally luminescent skin nearly dark, shivering violently. Princess. He knelt beside her. What's happening? Thermal shock, she whispered. We require heat stability. Without hesitation, Taiwan lifted her surprisingly light form and placed her on the bed, covering her with both their blankets. When her shivering continued, he made a decision that would have horrified his commanding officer. Body heat, he explained, carefully positioning himself beside her above the blankets. Basic survival technique. In my culture, she managed through chattering teeth, this would make us married. Despite everything, Taiwan laughed. Let's just focus on keeping you alive, Your Highness. By morning, her colors had returned, shifting from blue to a warm purple Taiwan hadn't seen before. Thank you, she said simply. You showed kindness. It's what humans do, he replied. At our best anyway. Nera sat up slowly, the purple hue of her skin deepening around her face. Taiwan moved away, giving her space. The environmental systems must have failed completely during the night, he said, checking his comm unit. No messages explained the severe temperature drop. It nearly killed me, Nera said. Her voice lacked its usual sharp edge. Luminary cannot survive temperature fluctuations this extreme. Our bodies shut down. Taiwan frowned. Why didn't you tell me it was that serious? I did not know it would get so cold. She pulled the blankets tighter around her shoulders. And I did not want to appear weak before a human. Needing help isn't weakness, Taiwan said. He stood and walked to the small cabin terminal, typing quickly. I'm filing a report. This is a serious safety issue. Nera watched him with all 4 eyes. You are angry. Yes, I'm angry. My job is to keep you safe, and I almost failed because no one bothered to tell me about your temperature sensitivity. His fingers paused over the keyboard. Something wasn't right. The environmental logs showed no record of a temperature drop beyond the initial adjustment from the previous day. That's strange, he muttered. What is it? Nera asked, moving to stand beside him. She swayed slightly, and Taiwan instinctively reached out to steady her. The logs don't show any extreme cold last night. He looked at her, but you were clearly in distress. Nera's skin rippled with bands of color, blue to purple to a shade of green Taiwan hadn't seen before. I believe, she said carefully, It may have been isolated to me. What do you mean? She sat down on the edge of the bed. My people experience an adaptation period when first exposed to other species. It manifests as physical symptoms. In my case, an inability to maintain body temperature. Taewon tried to process this. You're saying you got sick because you were sharing space with a human. Not exactly. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence. It is more complex. My body is adjusting to your presence. The process is usually gradual, but in close quarters, it accelerates. Taewon sat down on the chair across from her. Why didn't you tell me this before? It is not something we discuss with outsiders. It would be seen as embarrassing. The purple in her skin deepened again, like admitting a weakness. So this could happen again. No, she said firmly. The adaptation is complete now. Taewon ran a hand through his hair. This mission keeps getting more complicated. To his surprise, Nara made a sound he hadn't heard before, a soft trilling that he realized was laughter. You find this funny? He asked. I find it ironic, she replied. I was sent to learn about humans, to see if alliance was possible. Now I am learning in ways no one anticipated. Taewon couldn't help but smile. I guess I'm learning about Luminary too. Nara stood and moved to her luggage, extracting a small silver container. This is Sheva, she explained, opening it to reveal the blue powder, a ceremonial offering of gratitude. She took a pinch of the powder and dropped it into a small cup, adding water from their supply. The mixture glowed faintly. In my culture, when someone saves another's life, they become sorta life-bonded. She offered him the cup. It is a serious connection. Taewon hesitated. I don't want to commit to something I don't understand. The bond simply acknowledges what happened, she explained. That my life continues because of your actions. Carefully, Taewon accepted the cup. What do I do? Drink half and return it to me. The liquid tasted surprisingly pleasant, like sweet berries with a hint of mint. He drank half as instructed and handed the cup back. Nara finished it in one swallow. Now we are sorta, she said solemnly. My people would recognize you as someone of importance to me. And what does that mean for this mission? Taewon asked. It means, Nara said, her skin now a calm, steady blue, that I will tell you the truth about why I am really here. The ship lurched violently, throwing Taewon from his chair. Red alert signals blared throughout the vessel. Border raiders, he explained, grabbing his weapon. Stay here where it's safe. Nara stood, her royal robes discarded for the simpler attire she wore for sleep. My people have fought these raiders for generations. I know their tactics. When communications to the bridge failed, they were forced to navigate damaged corridors together. They'll target the propulsion systems first, Nara said confidently. It's their standard approach. Taewon nodded. Then we need to reach auxiliary control. Working together, his combat training and her knowledge of the enemy, they managed to help secure a secondary defense station. When a raider broke through, Taewon moved instinctively to shield her, but Nara stepped forward, her hands glowing intensely as she projected something unseen that made the attacker collapse. Telepathic defense, she explained, seeing his expression. Another thing my people do. Taewon stared at the fallen raider, a hulking figure in dark battle armor. You never mentioned you could do that. You never asked about my abilities, Nara replied, her skin pulsing with bright blue energy. Just as I never asked about your combat training. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. We need to move, Taewon said, checking the corridor. More raiders will come. They made their way through the damaged ship, stepping over debris and helping injured crew members when they could. Taewon noticed that Nara moved with unexpected grace under pressure, her 4 eyes constantly scanning for threats. How many ships do raiders usually attack with? He asked as they paused at an intersection. 3 small vessels typically, she replied. They prefer quick strikes rather than prolonged battles. A group of crew members rushed past them, heading toward the escape pods. The captain hasn't given evacuation orders, Taewon called out to them. Communications are down, one crew member shouted back. Every section is on its own. Nara grabbed Taewon's arm. We cannot let them abandon ship. If the raiders capture escape pods, they will take hostages. Taewon nodded grimly. We need to get to the bridge. Restore ship-wide communications. They changed direction, taking a maintenance tunnel that climbed upward through the vessel's levels. The narrow passage forced them close together, their shoulders touching as they climbed. In my report about luminary abilities, Taewon said between breaths, there was nothing about telepathic defense. Because we do not share all our abilities with outsiders, Nara replied, until we are certain of their intentions. And now? Now we are sorta, and our ship is under attack. Circumstances change. They reached a hatch that opened onto the command deck corridor. Taewon peered through first, then signaled Nara to follow. The hallway was empty but showed signs of struggle, scorch marks on walls, equipment scattered across the floor. The bridge is sealed, Taewon said as they approached the main doors. The control panel flashed red, indicating lockdown. Nara stepped forward, placing her four-fingered hands against the panel. Her skin began to glow brighter, the blue light spreading from her fingers into the ship's systems. What are you doing? Taewon asked. Communicating with your ship's computer, she said, her voice strained. Another ability we keep private. The panel changed from red to green, and the bridge doors slid open. Inside, Captain Lee and 3 officers had barricaded themselves behind overturned consoles. They raised weapons as the door opened. Hold fire, Taewon shouted. It's Sergeant Kim and Princess Nara. Captain Lee lowered his weapon. Sergeant, how did you get through the lockdown? The princess has some skills that weren't in her file, Taewon explained, helping Nara inside. Her skin had dimmed, and she looked drained. Raiders have taken engineering, Captain Lee said. They're trying to disable life support ship-wide. Standard tactic, Nara confirmed, leaning against a console to steady herself. Force surrender by threatening the entire crew. We need to restore communications, Taewon said. Stop the evacuation before raiders capture escape pods. The ship's tactical officer looked up from his damaged console. Communications array is physically damaged. We can't restore it from here. Nara straightened, her color gradually returning. I can establish a link. If your systems can be connected to my neural pathways, I can broadcast directly. Captain Lee stared at her. That's not possible. It is for her species, Taewon said. Captain, I've seen what she can do. We should trust her. After a moment's hesitation, Lee nodded. Do it. The tactical officer helped connect Nara to the ship's remaining systems through an emergency interface. Her skin began to pulse with rhythmic patterns of light as she closed all 4 eyes. Crew of the Dauntless, her voice echoed through the ship, but her lips didn't move. This is Princess Nara. Remain at your stations. Do not evacuate. Raiders are targeting escape pods. In the silence that followed, Taewon moved closer to her. Are you all right? The connection is taxing, she whispered. Suddenly, the bridge doors burst open. 2 raiders charged in, weapons firing. Taewon pushed Nara down, returning fire as Captain Lee and the others ducked behind consoles. 1 raider fell, but the second locked eyes on Nara and aimed directly at her. Without thinking, Taewon threw himself in front of her. Pain exploded in his shoulder as the energy blast hit him instead of her. As he fell, he saw Nara rise up, her entire body now glowing with intense light. She raised her hands, and the raider froze in place, then collapsed. The last thing Taewon saw before losing consciousness was Nara's face above him, all 4 eyes filled with concern, her hands already moving to stop his bleeding. Now we are truly sorta, he thought he heard her say. Life for life. The day before docking, Taewon found Princess Nera arranging her formal attire for the upcoming diplomatic ceremony. "So, back to guard and princess tomorrow," he said, sitting on what had become his side of the bed. Nera's skin rippled with colors, blue, purple, and gold intermingling. "Is that regret I hear, Sergeant Kim?" "Maybe," he admitted. "I've learned more about your people in 2 weeks than I did in 3 years of cultural training." "The Alliance needs people who understand both sides," Nera said. "I will request you remain as my liaison officer." "They'll never approve that." She smiled, her 4 eyes crinkling. "You forget, I am royalty. What I request, I receive." The following day, as they stood before the combined delegations, Princess Nera spoke the traditional greeting of her people, but added a human handshake that caused murmurs among both delegations. "The strength of our alliance," she announced, "will come from embracing our differences rather than fearing them." Taewon stood tall beside her, no longer just a guard, but something new, a bridge between worlds. Taewon's shoulder still ached from the raider's blast. The medical team had healed the worst of the damage, but they warned him it would be sore for weeks. He didn't mind. The pain reminded him of choices made, of standing between danger and someone who mattered. As the diplomats from both sides filed into the grand meeting room on Starbase 7, Taewon adjusted his dress uniform. The formal blue coat felt stiff after 2 weeks in standard duty clothes aboard the Dauntless. "You look uncomfortable," Nara said quietly as they waited in the side chamber. Her royal attire was stunning, flowing silver and blue fabrics that seemed to move like water, matching the gentle glow of her skin. "I prefer combat gear," he admitted. "Less itchy." She made the trilling sound he now recognized as laughter. "Humans have such strange complaints." Captain Lee entered the chamber, nodding respectfully to the princess. "Your Highness, the delegation is ready. Remember, this is just a formal introduction. The real negotiations begin tomorrow." "I understand, Captain." Her voice had taken on the formal tone Taewon had heard when they first met. The voice of Princess Nera, not the Nera who had shared his quarters, who had fought beside him, who had saved his life. "Sergeant Kim," Captain Lee continued, "you'll stand 3 paces behind the princess during the ceremony." "Actually, Captain," Nera interrupted, "Sergeant Kim will stand at my side." Lee frowned. "That's not protocol, Your Highness." "It is now," she replied simply. "Sergeant Kim is sorta to me. In my culture that grants him certain privileges." The captain looked at Taewon with confusion. "Sorta. Life bonded," Taewon explained awkwardly. "It's a luminary cultural thing." Lee seemed ready to argue but thought better of it. "Very well. Side by side it is." As the captain left, Nera turned to face Taewon fully. "Are you nervous, Sergeant? About standing next to you?" "No." "About what happens after today?" "Yes." She tilted her head, secondary eyes blinking. "Explain." 2 weeks ago, I was just a security officer assigned to guard duty. Now I've fought raiders, learned about telepathic abilities, and apparently become life-bonded to an alien princess. He smiled slightly. "It's a lot to process. Change is difficult for humans. Change is difficult for everyone, I think." Nera reached out, her 4-fingered hand hovering near his injured shoulder without touching it. "You saved my life. I saved yours. That creates a bond that transcends our differences. And what happens when you return to your world, and I'm reassigned?" Her skin shifted to a new color, a deep gold that seemed to shimmer. "That is what I wished to discuss with you. I have spoken with my father, the Emperor." Taewon felt suddenly nervous. And he agrees that this alliance requires someone who understands both sides, someone who has proven their worth. Her 4 eyes held his gaze. "He has approved my request for you to serve as official human liaison to the Luminary Court." Taewon stared at her. "You can't be serious." "I am always serious about diplomatic matters, Sergeant Kim. But I'm not a diplomat. I'm a soldier." "You are sorta," she corrected. "And you understand something that no diplomat does. You understand me." Before Taewon could respond, the doors opened. It was time. They walked into the grand meeting room side by side. Human officials in formal attire stood on one side, luminary representatives, all glowing in various shades of blue, on the other. At the center was a circular table where the leaders would sit. As they approached, Taewon saw the surprise on the faces of the human delegation when they realized he was walking beside the princess, not behind her. The luminary noticed, too, their skin patterns shifting rapidly in what he now recognized as surprise. Admiral Chen, the head of the human delegation, spoke first. "Princess Nara, we welcome you and your people to these historic negotiations." Nara stepped forward, and to everyone's surprise, extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Admiral Chen hesitated only briefly before shaking it. "The Luminary Empire is pleased to begin this new chapter in our relationship with humanity," Nara said formally. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her other hand on Taewon's shoulder, his good one, and drew him forward. "This is Sergeant Taewon Kim," she announced to the room. "He has saved my life at risk of his own. He has shown me that humans are capable of understanding, adaptation, and sacrifice. He is Sorta to me, life bonded by our oldest traditions." Murmurs rippled through both delegations. "Therefore," Nara continued, "with the blessing of Emperor Zero, I name Sergeant Kim as the first human liaison to the Luminary Court." The human delegation looked stunned. Admiral Chen's mouth opened and closed without words. Taewon stood tall, though his heart raced. He hadn't expected this public announcement. "The strength of our alliance," Nara finished, looking around the room, "will come from embracing our differences rather than fearing them." As the formal meetings began, Taewon took his place beside her. Whatever came next would be challenging, unfamiliar, perhaps even dangerous. But after 2 weeks sharing quarters with an alien princess, he felt ready for anything. Their eyes met briefly as they sat down. Nara's skin glowed with that warm purple he had come to recognize. Trust, perhaps, or something more. Bridge between worlds, he thought. Not a bad promotion for a simple guard.